Well, as Georgia voters prepare to choose Republican and Democratic Party nominees for the 2026 election here in Georgia, there is one group of voters that could decide who is on the ballot in November. And my Georgia Vote co-anchor, Zach Merchant, joining us now. So, Zach, we're talking about independent voters. They have a sway in elections, and we might see that in our primary. Typically, candidates are going after independent voters in the general election. So why the primary here in Georgia?
Well, it's sort of a structural rule of Georgia's elections, and it comes into focus because today we are just 8 weeks out from the primary election. All statewide offices, the nominations for them, plus the Republican nomination for a U.S. Senate seat, they're all on the line. Now, in some states, independent voters, they're not a factor until the general election, but here in Georgia, our state is an open primary state. That means an independent voter can choose either a Republican or a Democratic primary ballot. This week in the Georgia Vote, we asked our analysts how these voters could influence which Republicans end up on the ballot in November.
More and more, the deciding voter is an independent voter.
Right.
And independent voters right now, if you look at all of the national polling, you even look at some of the AJC polling, you see that Donald Trump is down terribly with independent voters. And it happens so fast. And we see that presidents oftentimes lose support as they're moving towards the midterms, but this is really rapid. And so, Republicans who are running are going to have a really hard job of who have run towards Trump in the primary are running away from him when it comes to the general.
When we look at the primary, again, you've got Burt Jones and Rick Jackson that are sort of going at it. Rick Jackson gets in, and he is clearly, trying to present himself as pro-Trump. So I think if you're Raffensperger or Carr, and somehow you can get in a runoff with either Rick Jackson or Burt Jones, at that point, perhaps some independent voters cross over and vote in the Republican runoff, which could potentially affect who wins the runoff on the Republican side.
And that is part of this past Sunday's edition of the Georgia Vote. You can see more from our weekly politics roundtable streaming right now on the Georgia Vote on 11 Alive Plus.